Hi, good afternoon, everybody. Eric Melch from Dealer Teamwork at Dealer Teamwork Interviews. And today we are joined by a very special guest, longtime friend, uh, rockstar industry professional, Cliff Banks. So thanks for joining us, Cliff.
Eric, thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
It's great to see you. Appreciate you taking the time. Known you for so long, and I was trying to remember back where I first met you, and I think it was at an NADA. I was on one of my very first panels and I think it was Glenn Garvin, who I actually interviewed last week as well. And I remember I didn't know what NADA was. I didn't know what these events were like. I didn't know what speaking meant and all that type of stuff. And I knew who you were. And I remember I looked up and there you were. And I just remember thinking, I was like, oh, that's cool. I know that guy. And he's actually in the audience. So I just thought that was cool. That was,
Wow.
I believe that was the first time.
Okay.
So if you don't know and you've been under a rock for the last 30 years or so, Cliff is obviously somebody who probably most people in the industry are familiar with. Hopefully they're fortunate enough to have met. You've been called the best journalist in automotive. Was that?
Yeah, I've been around a long time.
Yeah.
So,
So you consult, to both
yes, right,
investors, analysts.
right.
You do, OEM branding, vendor consulting, retail consulting, technology consulting. So you got your hand in so many different things. Then you launched the Banks Report. Probably one of the
Right.
best publications in the industry, in my opinion. Tell me a little bit about the shift that when you made that move into the Banks Report and what
Right.
that meant for you personally as well.
Wow. Yeah. Um, the idea really started when I was at Ward's. They published the Ward's Automotive reports for years, and they were weekly digests that were mailed to subscribers. And I thought we could do the same, something similar from a retail perspective. No one was really at the time covering automotive from an investor perspective. What I mean by that is that the investment capital drives a lot of the strategy that goes on at the vendor level and even at the dealership level, from the dealer buy sell perspective, but certainly at the vendor level. And no one was covering it or paying attention to that aspect of the market. And I thought that having a publication or some sort of I guess some sort of publication would focusing on that would fill a nice niche, and it took a while to get to find the right partner to get it started. But I started it with Joe Herman, who at the time was COO at the Cooney Automotive Group. He had been COO at Group One, had run Planet or Potemkin, been around. He was one of the folks that was behind the whole concept of a public dealer group, uh, starting the UAG group that Penske ended up buying. Uh, Sad thing was with Joe is we went live, and a few months later he was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer and passed away about a year later or 10 months later. So that personally, I mean, not having that opportunity to learn from him, I think was one of my great losses. Uh, but we're still here. We're still kicking, and his son Chris Herman with the Herman Agency has been a great partner through the years. I'm learning as I'm still learning as I go, and the pandemic's throwing creating some new challenges because we had launched an event called Autovate a few
Yeah.
years ago, and we were really starting to hit. It was really starting to hit its stride last December and going into this year, and then this hit. So, but like everyone, you have to adjust and keep focusing. But I think right now, for me, Eric, the challenge I have personally is that there's a lot of noise out there. A lot of noise. Everyone's throwing data. Everyone's trying to analyze the numbers. Everyone's quote unquote an expert on. And I'll tell you, there's just I don't want to contribute to a lot of the unnecessary noise. So I'm trying to make sure my content is very specific at the moment. I'm not throwing a lot of stuff out there. because I want to have things settled down a little bit, because I think we'll have a, hopefully within a few weeks, couple months, we'll have a much better handle on where things are going. Some encouraging news the last couple of weeks is that there are signs of life in automotive retail. And we weren't expecting that at this point. We were thinking sales, I think everyone in the industry was expecting sales to be down 80, 90%, and we're down 40% right now. I've seen some of the data, not just on sales data, but credit apps that have been submitted. And other than, New York, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and California, I mean, Pennsylvania certainly, the numbers are looking, I mean, they're down, but they're not horrible. So I
Yeah, I
think
saw the number. I saw that other number that came out for April. I think we are just about 600,000 units altogether, just under that.
possibly, we could. That's JD Power's projection, is that if things continue, then we'll be at 600, which is it's a pretty bad drop. There's no
Yeah.
doubt. I'm not saying that. I'm not painting a rosy picture, but what I am saying is that there are signs of life in this industry right now, and there are dealers that are selling cars. I know of a dealer up in the Northwest who is selling more than they sold last year at this time. Surprising, just amazingly. So, you try to compare it to, we all lived through 08, 09,
Right.
and trying to find some of the parallels. Certainly, you dust off some of the playbooks. Cash, I think we've all woken up to the fact right now you got to do everything you can do to preserve cash. Try to get some of that PPP money that's not there now, but maybe there again in the next few days, hopefully.
Well, wouldn't you agree that a major difference between now and the financial crisis is we could still focus in on the processes because obviously stores were open.
Yes.
Now there's a little bit of a shift. Now it's almost like there is a shift for the first time for a real focus in on the right tools to be able to help support these new processes. Wouldn't you agree with that?
Right. Well, I think, back then you certainly didn't have the technology available to do true online or digital retailing or whatever we want to call online transactions. It just wasn't there. I will say that if this had happened a year ago or two, we would have been in a similar situation. The technology is actually, the solutions have improved significantly over the last year, in fact. So, yeah, I think that's giving dealers an opportunity. See, the difference obviously was that you could still sell cars in your showroom.
Right.
Back then. Now, GM and Chrysler had a different battle, having no credit, no captive finance to support them, so they were effectively shut down. But today, I mean, you can't go in a showroom in most states, but you can. But now we're able to sell online, and we have the tools available to do that. A lot of dealers are getting up to speed and are learning on the fly. I think having slower showroom activity is creating that opportunity too. To be able to learn on the fly. But again, whether this becomes the norm, digital retailing becomes the norm, I don't see that happening, but it certainly becomes a much bigger part of the landscape than what it has been.
Yeah. I want to go back to a comment you had made just a couple minutes ago as well.
Sure.
It was something that personally myself, I know other people have said this as well about you as a journalist and as an automotive professional. You're very careful and cautious about what you share because you don't want to contribute to the noise. I think that's a really powerful statement because we all recognize the noise and the clutter and just the sheer crap that's out there.
Right.
I think that's one of the things that has set you apart over the years is your ability to identify with that and set yourself apart, dealing with facts. And I think a little bit more, it's almost like if you were to compare yourself to you're not a blogger, you're a true journalist.
No.
And the journalistic integrity that you've always had, I think is commendable and respectable. And, I think that's the part that hopefully one of my goals for this interview for yourself is for you to be able to continue, if anything, to help, help position and broadcast that narrative that you help contribute to the industry, and especially with what we're going through now. But I just had to point that out. I think
Oh, thanks.
that's a big piece. How about this, Cliff? Share what pre-virus, okay? What
Yes.
were some of the biggest problems that you had seen in the last 6 to 9 months in the industry itself that you now see as this being again another catalyst for change that we'll probably experience?
That's a great question, Eric. 'Cause I think I think the industry was moving more towards a platform play. Uh, Certainly, I think DealerTrack has been working on the Unify deal. CDK with Fortellis.
Mm-hmm.
And uh, I'm a little concerned, and I've been a big proponent of that for the last 4 or 5 years, believing that that's where the industry needs to go because of what I see coming in the future from a connected vehicle, not not automated driving. I'm saying connected vehicle perspective. But I'm a little concerned now that this may push back some of those initiatives, delay some of them, and I think, for example, and I don't want to, I'm not denigrating Chrysler or Fiat Chrysler at all here, but they're getting ready to launch in May their online retail or experience, online retail experience, and uh, their digital retailing platform, they're limiting significantly. I mean, they're limiting dealers to the number of solutions they can use, and very specific solutions. And that's been pretty much a strategy, I think, all along for some of the OEMs. I think a platform play, a true platform play. And what I mean by that is, having that platform where various solutions can communicate using the API technology, um, would open it up to more vendors, more players. We're going to see with Fiat Chrysler, there are dealers who are very tied into with their digital strategies and have been investing a great deal of time and effort with their current vendors and are not going to be able to use those vendors on the digital retailing side. So uh, that will be interesting to watch, to see how that plays out. Um, Now, in terms of other things, on the other hand, this pandemic is, like we've mentioned, is creating an environment in which dealers have to now focus on learning those processes and developing the right culture, so to speak, within the store to help them leverage those opportunities uh, that I think are going to become a much bigger part of the landscape.
No, I agree. I think at the same time as well, we're also going to see a thinning of the herd from those people that may have been riding a wave of easy success and didn't necessarily. I wouldn't say. I would say they didn't position themselves as a true leader early on, and now we're
Right.
seeing GMs and owners that really recognize the opportunity, and that's making a significant difference, even on the vendor side as well. Just a difference in the direction. And I've been saying this now for a couple of weeks that this is going to present a whole new set of problems that will create the opportunities for new solutions.
Yes.
And those tomorrow's winners are going to be determined, obviously, by those people that can recognize that the true entrepreneurial spirit, both in the retail side and the vendor side. So it'll be interesting to see what comes out of this. What new solutions, new companies, new
Right.
processes, new tools. So
Well, I think if I'm in the call center business in the automotive retail, I'm liking my position real well right now,
yeah,
because I think the outsourcing of BDC type solutions is going to be huge in this new world. I think also the pickup and delivery type companies. I think of Red Cap any of the trucking companies, transport companies that haven't focused on transporting, picking up vehicles back and forth, transporting them from the dealership to the customer. I think that there's an opportunity for them to move into that business. Like I said, Red Cap is one that I think is probably going to be inundated, and we'll see some significant growth. I think even some of these companies. I mean, Cox has invested in a couple of companies. Ride Clean they acquired, which is a mobile detailing servicing
Mhm.
type wrench. The other one, Get Spiffy, which has been on a tear in terms of getting investment money and making acquisitions out of North Carolina. Those guys, I think, are all well positioned because there likely will be some more fleet type businesses in terms of shopping. Yesterday, I mean, we did our first Instacart through Kroger. First time I've ever had groceries delivered to the house.
Oh, interesting. Your first
And
time?
I had placed the order, and with Kroger, it was interesting. The pickup was a week later, or I could do delivery, which is the next day. So I chose the delivery option. I've never done that before, and it was a new experience. But it was something that was like, well, okay, we could get used to this.
Oh,
So
yeah.
there's going
Yeah.
to be many more opportunities, I think, for companies and maybe even dealers offering some kind of services like that
But
or
I
helping
think from a
dealers.
macro level, that's where
Yeah.
people need to understand what are the changes
Yes.
in the behaviors. I'm actually
Right.
doing a presentation this week, and one of the initial slides is all about that changing in behaviors. And I actually have two separate chart. It's a chart showing just new car and used car searches. It's pretty much
Right.
flat for the last 30 days. However,
Yes.
the overlay is liquor delivery, and it literally
It's
goes through the roof. It's a good
it's
example of,
fascinating.
just in terms of
Right.
how our behaviors change. And
Right.
and I've done Instacart as well, a couple of times. It's just, I don't want to go out, and
Right.
especially, in New
Yes.
York New York's not a pretty situation. It hasn't been, but, so to have something like that, it's just changing our behaviors and our expectations.
It,
How about the buy sell
yeah.
landscape? How do you see that changing? I have to imagine there's going to be some great bargains. There's going to be some people like, hey, you know what, this is time to hang it up. I know we've heard a lot of stories already with some stores shutting down, unfortunately, but do you see that activity picking up, and do you think it's going to be a good bargain hunting time for anybody looking to grow or get in?
Well, the buyers are the opportunistic buyers are lining up. Uh, we probably won't see much activity for a little while. I think the timing is, you know, uh, maybe third, fourth quarter this year. It could get pushed to could get pushed to next year. But yeah, there's going to be I think a huge spike in activity. Um, there's been some buyers that have been sitting on the sidelines for the last 4 or 5 years that we've been waiting to make big moves and uh, to add to their empires, so to speak. And this is going to be the time to do it. Um,
Are you referring to Buffett or just in general?
well, he certainly is one of them. That is certainly one of them that I think has probably they've been close on some deals and haven't pushed them across the finish line. I think there's going to be uh, a an environment in which prices are going to come down. Right now, it's hard because you don't know how to put a valuation on these stores. It's impossible. So it's really hard to for a seller, I think, now to figure out what their stores is worth. Now, in the next 60 to 90 days, when when some of these stores are really experiencing a cash crunch, if we're not coming back and if they've managed their whole process poorly through the pandemic, I mean, how they're treating their employees and what the what they've done otherwise, you could, yeah, I think they're maybe there might be a spike sooner than we think, because there's going to be stores that are probably going to be on the brink. Um, coming up very soon.
I heard a great analogy at NADA, I think it was last year, and they were talking about how basically Buffett and Berkshire, they've just, the way they described it was he's been standing in the batter's box waiting for the right pitch
Yeah,
for
yeah,
several
that's
years.
a good way of. That's a great way of putting it.
And it's like maybe this is the right pitch is coming in this environment too. So that'll be an interesting thing to watch. Um, what about other things, just in terms of the used car market as well? Do you think we're teed up for another cash for clunkers situation?
I would think so, um, but based on what I'm hearing from this morning, a couple lobbyists out of D.C. that were involved in the uh, original Cash for Clunkers. It's interesting because I heard it and then I called someone else and asked if they were hearing the same, and it was the answer was yes. That yeah, maybe not. If we get the paycheck protection plan refunded
Hmm.
next week or so, there may not be the likelihood of a cash for clunkers goes down significantly. We'll see. I would have last week. I would have said absolutely, it's a given. Uh, this week now, as we're seeing some of the sales numbers, I also think that we haven't seen the most aggressive incentives yet from the manufacturers. Toyota hasn't really gone all in. Honda, yeah, hasn't really jumped into that yet. I think they're waiting for the country to start opening up before they start shooting some of those bullets. Um, so on that side, I mean, we'll see. So those incentives could probably drive some activity. Plus, we have 4 million cars coming back.
Right.
Off from that are off lease units that'll be coming back in, and so that's going to drive some activity. So last week I would have said 100% we're going to get a cash for clunkers. I think today my answer is like, we'll see.
Well, do you think the OEMs and the lobbyists could push for that to happen because of the amount of inventory swelling on the used side? Dealers might be still so far underwater. I mean, imagine if you're a dealer that was
Oh,
already
yeah.
stocked with aged units that were priced out of the market before this. Now inventory swells, prices continue to drop, MMR continues to drop.
Well, listen, there's no doubt we are in for several months of pain on the used car side. There is no doubt about it. I mean, there's no way that these prices don't drop more. Right, the valuations don't drop more. I mean, look, and part of it is obviously there's just the supply. There's an oversupply, and everyone's trying to sell, offload their used car inventory. No one's wanting to buy. Uh, so now, look, we have a history in this industry of managing recessions fairly well.
Mhm.
This is not the pandemic notwithstanding, putting that aside, having an oversupply of used cars and having some inventory issues is not a problem we've not encountered. I mean, we have seen this before, and the industry has a pretty resilient playbook at being able to work itself out of these problems. Doesn't mean that there's not going to be pain. Doesn't mean that there are going to be dealers taking some losses and finance companies taking losses on these cars. It is what it is. I mean, that's just the way the industry goes. But I guess it's not that I'm optimistic. I'm realistic. Yeah, it's going to be a problem, but we know how to work our way out of this.
All right.
Right.
One
So,
last question for you too before I let you go. You always have your finger on the pulse, just in terms of good, healthy fundamentals when it comes to the companies out there. Anything that you're watching on the automotive industry on the stock side of things? Any interesting plays? Any interesting trends and anything
oh,
like that that you might be able to share? you always seem to hit the nail on the head, when you start
Yeah,
well.
um, yeah, watching Carvana closely, obviously. Um,
From a
the
long or a short side?
I don't know. Uh, so I let's just look at just the auto retails, the public dealer groups, and I say there's eight. There's six franchise ones, and then you have CarMax and Carvana.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, the word is volatile with their stocks, incredibly volatile. That's not new. Maybe the level of volatility is a little more, but that's because the entire market has been much more volatile over the last couple months. But when you look at the auto retail stocks in general, and you look at Lithia stock, I mean, it's up and down, and it's crazy. I think it reached $165 a share late last year, and then started dropping. It's going back up again. Carvana, like, I mean, if you've seen any of the stuff I've written, I mean, they had dropped to $22.91 in 3 weeks, from a high of, I think, like 115 down to 22.91, and then back up to 86,
Right.
85 late last week, and then they're up again. I mean, they dropped it, and they're going trending back up. And I think as we speak today, so yeah, the public dealer group stocks seem to be holding their own fairly well. Um,
What about the manufacturers? Somebody like
yeah,
Ford, GM?
well, listen, I we'll see. Interestingly, one of the things that we'll see coming out of this pandemic, I think, in the early term is Ford, GM, and Fiat Chrysler grabbing some market share. Uh, so that will be interesting to see. Look, Ford took out. I mean, sold what, $8 billion worth of junk bonds. I mean,
Mhm.
they seem to, every time they get into a situation, the industry's in a situation. Ford seems to be able to pull a rabbit. I mean, look,
Right.
'08, they settled, got their financing in place, or '07 before the thing hit. Now they're, you know, they these are unsecured loans essentially that they're taking. So they're not putting any of their assets on the line. But uh, I don't know. I think we're still in for some volatile days with these. It's hard to see Ford not. Look, I'll put it this way. To me, Ford would be, and I don't want to give investment advice.
Right.
All right, because there are people much smarter than me, and I think you can look at something. I mean, look, you can go on any site and seek any financial site and see, one saying Ford's going bankrupt and another saying it's a goodbye. I would say this: look, Ford, before it goes bankrupt, could be sold. I think there are buyers out there that would jump. And I think one of the interesting things coming out of this long term is to see what the automotive landscape looks like in the next couple of years. Ford, you start speculating Ford, Volkswagen seem to be are close. GM, Honda are
Mhm.
getting much closer on the EV side. What happens with Nissan? That's the big, to me, that to me would be the big question moving forward. Uh, there are rumors that Tata's looking to offload Jaguar. Um, so I think there's some things that it's probably too soon to tell. Obviously, what's going to happen. Um, you asked me, Carvana, whether my term play was long term or short term. They're going to get hammered on the inventory side, but Allied seems to be buying, jumping in all feet. With them, $2 billion. Going to next March.
Yeah, they're definitely funded. That secondary offering kind of scares me a little bit. I mean,
Oh yeah, yeah, yes,
but
yes.
but you get the picture. I mean, the point is, obviously, there's so much change coming. Huge opportunities. Just all great advice from you, Cliff. Again, I appreciate you taking the time today. it means a lot to me personally,
Well,
but also,
right back at you, Eric.
we've everybody in the industry appreciates your view and your perspective. Sean and I truly appreciate the support you've given us at Dealer Teamwork as well over the years, and all of your guidance and support means a lot to us. So
Well,
keep.
I think you guys are doing a great job, and certainly, and are trying to navigate this pandemic in a way that's very customer friendly. And I think certainly the data that you guys have been putting out, and we haven't mentioned Joe Scar, who's kind of a
He's on his
rock
game.
star.
Yeah,
He just
we're
comes up
fortunate to
with
have him.
the insight, looks at the numbers, and is able to come up with some absolutely phenomenal insights.
Yeah,
I
he's
had
doing
awesome
such a great
guys.
job for us, and we wouldn't honestly. We said it over and over again. We wouldn't be in the position that we're in
Right,
if it wasn't for Joe Scar.
right,
We're very fortunate to have
right,
him on the
right.
team. But the whole team itself, with the teamwork has been solid. The
Yep,
support is our number one initiative, and that's our opportunity, at least in the short term. And again, Sean's leading us down that long term path as
right.
well, in terms of looking for those newer opportunities and just do the stuff that we do very well. It's not that hard. It's hard to execute, but it's
Yes.
not
Yeah.
hard to understand where the opportunities are.
Sure.
Unfortunately, there's gaps right now, and we have the opportunity to. I spend all weekend just sending out random emails to clients, just saying, "Hey, here's an idea. Yeah, how
Right.
about this?" And
Right.
it's great because here you have dealer principals responding back within minutes, and that doesn't often
No.
happen.
True. True.
But it's like I fired it off, and all of a sudden my phone dings, and there it's like, yeah, that's a great idea. Let's give it a shot.
Yeah.
Let's talk. That's the type of thing that the dealers are looking for right now, and it's another example of another opportunity, obviously, to separate anybody from the pack. It's really not that difficult too. It's just people are yearning obviously for information, but I think at the same time, just in general, people are yearning for the connection somehow, whether it's a
Right.
video call, phone call,
Yes.
text,
Right.
and
Right.
just to do that means a lot to people, and that's what we're trying to do, is at least spread the word and the message that, I know everybody's saying it, but again, it's difficult. It's a little different to actually do it, consistently. And, we're trying to pay attention to all the factors, listen to everybody, you included. We
Hmm.
definitely don't have all the answers, and we're not pandemic experts, but what we are is just experienced automotive professionals, and
Yes.
we're,
Yes.
we're willing to help and guide and direct as needed. So, but yeah, thank you very much, Cliff. Always a pleasure to see you. I'm sure we'll talk again.
Yes.
If anybody hasn't already, check out the Banks report online. Get a taste of Cliff's insights. I'm sure you'll walk away with something great to help you out. But any last words, Cliff?
Wow. I love this industry. I think we're gonna get through this, but again, there's gonna be some pain. There's still gonna be a lot of pain to get through. Um, so we'll just be safe and be smart.
All right. Thanks again. Have a great rest of the week and stay safe out there. All right, buddy.
All right,
Thanks.
Eric. You too. Thanks. It's great.